I never expected my world to collapse on a Tuesday. There's something cruelly mundane about discovering your life is a carefully constructed lie while the rest of the world goes about its business, oblivious to the seismic shifts occurring beneath the surface of an otherwise ordinary day. My name is Ethan Crawford, and until recently, I thought I had it all figured out. 25 years of marriage to Sophia, my high school sweetheart. A successful investment firm I'd built from the ground up. A sprawling Tudor-style house in Connecticut's most prestigious neighborhood. Our children were grown and thriving in their own lives. We were supposed to be entering our golden years together, reaping the rewards of decades of hard work and dedication. But life has a way of showing you just how naive your certainty can be. The first crack in my perfect facade appeared 3 months ago, when Marcus Reynolds joined our firm as a senior partner. Tall, charismatic, and 15 years younger than me, he brought fresh energy and innovative ideas that quickly made him indispensable. Sophia was immediately drawn to him at our company gatherings, but I dismissed the warning bells in my head. After all, she had always been naturally friendly, and I trusted her implicitly. That trust began to waver when I noticed subtle changes in her behavior. The late-night texts she'd quickly hide when I entered the room. The sudden interest in yoga classes 3 times a week. The new lingerie I never saw her wear. Each detail alone could be dismissed, but together they formed a pattern I couldn't ignore. "You're being paranoid, Ethan," David, my oldest friend and business partner, assured me over whiskey one evening. "Sophia's crazy about you. Always has been." But David's words rang hollow against the mounting evidence. The stolen glances between Sophia and Marcus during meetings. The way she'd laugh just a little too hard at his jokes, touch his arm just a little too long. I began to notice how she dressed more carefully on days when he was in the office, wearing those form-fitting dresses that used to be reserved for our date nights. I hired a private investigator, telling myself I was being ridiculous, that I'd laugh about this paranoia later. The PI, a retired detective named Jack Morrison, took my case with a grave expression that suggested he'd seen this story play out too many times before. "Sometimes," he said, "it's better to know the truth, Mr. Crawford. Even when it hurts." I threw myself into work, trying to ignore the gnawing doubt that had taken up residence in my gut. But every night, I'd lie awake beside Sophia, studying her peaceful sleeping face, wondering if I truly knew the woman I'd spent half my life with. The breaking point came during last week's charity gala. I watched from across the ballroom as Sophia disappeared onto the terrace with Marcus. Following at a discreet distance, I heard their whispered conversation, saw their silhouettes merge in the moonlight. I should have confronted them then, but something held me back. Perhaps it was shock, or maybe a deeper, more calculating instinct. Instead, I began to gather evidence. Financial records, emails, security footage from the office. What I discovered went far beyond a simple affair. Marcus wasn't just sleeping with my wife, he was systematically working to undermine my position in the company. Board members were being quietly approached, doubts about my leadership being strategically planted. And Sophia, my devoted wife of 25 years, was helping him. Tonight, as I sit in my home office reviewing the damning evidence Jack has compiled, I hear Sophia's key in the front door. Her heels click against the marble floor as she returns from another yoga class. The faint scent of unfamiliar cologne clings to her as she kisses my cheek, and I force myself to smile, to play the role of the unsuspecting husband one last time. But tomorrow, everything changes. Tomorrow, I stop being the victim in this story. As I watch Sophia head upstairs, humming softly to herself, I open my laptop and begin typing an email to our company's board of directors. What I'm about to set in motion will destroy the careful plans Marcus and Sophia have made. But first, I need to understand exactly how deep this betrayal goes, and who else might be involved in their scheme. The game is about to change, and they have no idea I'm already 10 moves ahead. The morning unfolds like a perfectly choreographed dance of deception. I watch Sophia's morning routine through new eyes, noting how each gesture now seems performative, the way she lingers over her coffee, the casual brush of her lips against my cheek, the practiced lightness in her voice as she mentions dinner plans with the girls. Every mundane moment is charged with the electricity of unspoken truths. "Don't work too late tonight, darling," she says, adjusting my tie with familiar intimacy. The platinum band on her finger catches the morning light, and I remember the day I slipped it on, both of us drunk on promises and possibilities. Now it seems more like a prop in an elaborate theatrical production, one where I've been playing the role of the fool. I wait until her car disappears down our tree-lined driveway before making my move. Jack's latest report burns in my briefcase, heavy with revelations that go far beyond what I'd initially suspected. It's not just Marcus and Sophia, there's a whole web of betrayal woven through the fabric of my life, threads that lead to unexpected places. The office feels different now, every interaction laden with potential subtext. I notice how Sandra, my executive assistant of 15 years, averts her eyes when I ask about the board meeting scheduled for next week. She knows something. They all know something. Marcus swaggers in around 10, freshly pressed and radiating that particular brand of confidence that comes from believing you're the smartest person in the room. Ethan. Just the man I wanted to see. Got some exciting proposals for the Henderson account. I smile, matching his enthusiasm while my mind catalogs every micro-expression, every subtle tell. "Actually, Marcus, I've been meaning to discuss something with you. Join me for lunch?" The real meeting, however, isn't with Marcus. While he waits at our usual steakhouse, I'm sitting in a dimly lit bar across town with Thomas Chen, our company's head of IT. Thomas has always been underestimated, overlooked, exactly why I chose him as my ace in the hole. "It's worse than we thought," Thomas murmurs, sliding a USB drive across the table. "They've been planning this for over a year. Marcus has been systematically copying client data, building shadow accounts. But here's the kicker, the authorization codes used. They're from David's terminal." David. My oldest friend. The godfather to my children. The betrayal hits me like a physical blow, even though some part of me had suspected. The pieces click into place, his constant reassurances about Sophia, his enthusiastic support of Marcus's proposals, the mysterious trips to the Cayman Islands that he claimed were for client meetings. "There's more," Thomas continues, his voice barely audible above the lunch crowd. "I found emails between Sophia and David dating back 18 months. They've been intimate, Ethan. Before Marcus even entered the picture." The scotch in my hand trembles slightly, amber liquid catching the bar's subdued lighting. My mind races back through the years, recontextualizing countless moments. The lingering hugs at family barbecues. The inside jokes I'd always attributed to decades of friendship. How many times had I left them alone together, trusting implicitly? The offshore accounts, I managed to ask, my voice steady despite the hurricane raging inside me. "Were you able to trace them?" Thomas nods, pulling up documents on his tablet. 6 accounts in total. They've been siphoning funds through a complex network of shell companies. But here's what's interesting, there's a 7th account, one that doesn't fit the pattern. It's linked to a private email address registered to someone named Elena Reynolds. The name hits me like a bucket of ice water. Elena Reynolds, Marcus's wife. My hands begin to shake as I pull up a photo on my phone, taken at last summer's company picnic. Elena stands at the edge of the frame, her expression unreadable as she watches Marcus and Sophia laughing together near the lake. "She knows," I whisper, more to myself than Thomas. "She's known all along." I spend the afternoon in my office, pieces of the puzzle rearranging themselves in my mind. Every betrayal branches into new betrayals, a fractal pattern of deception that makes me question every relationship I've ever had. But amidst the pain, a plan begins to crystallize. My phone buzzes, a text from Sophia, "Working late tonight. Don't wait up." The same message she's sent countless times before. But tonight, it carries a different weight. Because tonight, I know exactly where she'll be, the luxury penthouse Marcus keeps downtown, paid for with money stolen from my company, from my life. I open my laptop and begin composing emails, one to Elena Reynolds, one to the SEC, and one to a private number in the Cayman Islands that Jack provided. Each message is a carefully placed domino in what will become a cascade of destruction. As darkness falls over the city, I receive an unexpected call. The number is blocked, but I answer anyway. Mr. Crawford, a woman's voice says, smooth as silk and sharp as steel. I believe we have some mutual interests to discuss. Elena Reynolds, it seems, has decided to make her move. And suddenly, the game becomes far more interesting than simple revenge. Elena Reynolds sits across from me at an obscure wine bar in the city's oldest district, her presence both magnetic and unnerving. In the amber lighting, I study the woman who has lived parallel to my own tragedy, another soul carved hollow by the same betrayals that have redefined my existence. It's fascinating, she muses, swirling her Cabernet with practiced elegance, how we build our lives on foundations of trust, never questioning the integrity of the ground beneath our feet until it starts to crumble. Her perfectly manicured nails tap against the stem of her wine glass, a quiet percussion accompanying the symphony of our shared devastation. The irony of this meeting isn't lost on me. Here we sit, the discarded pieces of other people's games, forming our own dangerous alliance. Elena's beauty is different from Sophia's, where my wife radiates warm charm designed to disarm. Elena carries herself with the cold precision of a surgeon's blade. How long have you known? I ask, though I suspect I already know the answer. About Marcus and Sophia? From the beginning. A bitter smile plays at the corners of her mouth. About the company conspiracy? That took longer to piece together. But here's what you don't know yet, Ethan, this goes far beyond a simple affair or financial fraud. She reaches into her designer handbag, extracting a slim manila envelope. Inside are photographs that turn my stomach, Marcus and David at meetings with men I recognize from less reputable corners of the business world. Dates, locations, handshakes that carry the weight of unspoken arrangements. Your wife and my husband aren't just stealing your company, Elena continues, her voice dropping to a whisper that feels like ice against my skin. They're setting you up to take the fall for something much darker. International money laundering, connections to organized crime, they've been carefully constructing a paper trail that leads directly to you. The revelation settles in my chest like frozen lead. In my darkest imaginings of their betrayal, I hadn't conceived of this level of calculated destruction. Every casual dinner, every friendly conversation over the past year takes on a sinister new light, moments when they must have been watching me, gauging my ignorance, perhaps even sharing private jokes about my blind trust. Why are you showing me this? I manage to ask, though part of me already knows. Elena's eyes meet mine, and I see in them a reflection of my own transformation, that moment when pain crystallizes into something harder, sharper. Because Marcus made the same mistake your Sophia did, he underestimated what he had at home. Assumed I was nothing more than a trophy wife, too focused on maintaining my social calendar to notice the signs. But I built my first company when I was 23, Ethan. Sold it for 8 figures before I was 30. I've just been playing a role, waiting for the right moment. The weight of this revelation shifts the air between us. I think back to company events, how Elena would float at the periphery, seemingly absorbed in trivial conversations while the important business discussions happened elsewhere. How many secrets had she gathered in those moments when everyone dismissed her as mere decoration? They've planned everything meticulously, she continues, but they have one critical weakness: they think they're the only ones capable of deception. Their arrogance makes them vulnerable. As she lays out what she's discovered, I feel a strange sensation in my chest, something between despair and exhilaration. The scope of their betrayal is breathtaking, but so is the opportunity it presents. Elena has already begun positioning pieces on the board I didn't even know existed. The offshore accounts are just the surface, she explains, pulling up documents on her tablet. I've traced their real operations through a network of shell companies. They're planning to trigger a crisis in your firm, one that would force an emergency sale to a specific buyer. The evidence of fraud they've manufactured would surface shortly after, leaving you to face federal charges while they walk away with everything. My hands clench involuntarily, knuckles white against the dark wood of the table. When? 2 weeks. The board meeting on the 15th is when they plan to make their move. She pauses, studying my reaction. But we can be ready before then. I have resources they don't know about, connections they never bothered to discover. The question is, Ethan, how far are you willing to go? I think about the morning's goodbye kiss from Sophia, the casual betrayal in that tender gesture. About David's decades of friendship, now revealed as an elaborate cover for his true nature. About Marcus, who must have spent hours practicing his role as the eager protege while plotting my destruction. Whatever it takes, I hear myself say, and the words feel like a door closing behind me, sealing off any path back to the man I used to be. Elena's smile is a dangerous thing, beautiful and sharp as a razor's edge. She reaches into her bag once more, producing a single key card. Then let's begin. There's something you need to see, something that will change everything you think you know about who's really pulling the strings in this game. As I take the key card, my phone buzzes with a text from Sophia, "Miss you, darling. Can't wait for our anniversary trip next week." The tenderness of the message, knowing what I know now, feels like acid in my veins. But for the first time since this nightmare began, I feel the cold comfort of clarity. Whatever humanity still lingered in my heart toward these people who'd shaped and shared my life burns away in that moment, replaced by something harder and infinitely more dangerous. Elena watches this transformation play across my face with quiet understanding. "Shall we?" she asks, rising from her seat with fluid grace. I follow her into the night, leaving behind the last remnants of the man who once believed in love's permanence and friendship's sanctity. Ahead lies a path of calculated retribution, and I embrace it with the fervor of the converted. The game is changing, and this time, I'm not just a player, I'm becoming something far more lethal, a man with nothing left to lose and everything to avenge. The key card Elena gave me leads to a private office suite in an unmarked building on the outskirts of the financial district. As I stand before the door, I feel the weight of inevitability pressing against my chest, that peculiar heaviness that comes with knowing you're about to cross a threshold from which there's no return. Inside, the space feels like a shrine to surveillance and strategy. Multiple monitors line the walls, each displaying different aspects of my collapsing world: security footage from my office, financial records, email exchanges, GPS tracking data. Elena has been watching everything, everyone, cataloging the intricate dance of deception that's been performed around me. "Your wife wasn't Marcus's first conquest in the company," Elena says, her voice carrying the clinical detachment of a pathologist delivering autopsy results. "She was his most ambitious, though. The others were simply about power and pleasure. Sophia represented something more, a partnership in every sense." She pulls up a series of photographs on the main screen. The images strike me like physical blows: Sophia and Marcus in intimate moments spanning months, yes, but it's the other photos that tear open new wounds in my psyche. Sophia and David in situations that stretch back years. The timeline of betrayal extends so far into my past that it makes me question every memory, every moment I thought was sacred. The human mind is remarkable in its capacity for self-deception, I murmur, more to myself than Elena. We see what we expect to see, trust what we need to trust, until reality becomes impossible to ignore. Elena moves closer, her presence both comforting and dangerous, like a blade offered handle first. "The real question, Ethan, isn't how you missed it. It's what you're going to do now that you see everything clearly." She pulls up another screen, this one showing a complex web of financial transactions. At its center is a name that hits me like a punch to the solar plexus: Catherine Crawford. My sister. The one person I thought was completely removed from this mess. Your sister has been acting as their silent partner, Elena explains, her words falling like stones into the depths of my disillusionment. She's been the connection to certain influential circles that made their entire plan possible. Those charity functions she runs. Perfect covers for meetings with less than legitimate business interests. The revelation burrows into my chest like a parasite, feeding on whatever remnants of trust still lived there. Catherine, my fierce protector during childhood, the one who stood by me through our parents' bitter divorce, who helped me build my first investment portfolio. Every Sunday dinner, every holiday gathering, every confidential conversation we've shared over the years takes on a nightmarish new context. Why? The question escapes me like a wounded animal's cry. What could possibly justify this level of betrayal? Elena's laugh is soft and bitter as winter wind. The same reason it's always been since the dawn of time: power. Your company isn't just successful, Ethan. It's a gateway to influence in circles you've never even imagined. Catherine recognized that potential long before Marcus entered the picture. She's been positioning pieces on this board since before you made your first million. My hands shake as I pour myself a drink from the office's well-stocked bar. The scotch burns, but it's a clean pain, honest, unlike everything else in my life. Tell me about the buyer they've lined up for the company. Elena's eyes glitter with dangerous knowledge. That's where things get truly interesting. The company they're planning to sell to? It's a front for one of the most sophisticated criminal enterprises in the Eastern Hemisphere. Your firm would become their primary money laundering operation, with you positioned to take the fall when authorities eventually catch on. She pulls up more documents, bank statements, corporate filings, surveillance photos. The scope of the conspiracy unfolds before me like a poisonous flower, beautiful in its complexity and deadly in its implications. Your wife and Marcus aren't just betraying you personally, Elena continues. They're setting you up to take the fall for decades of international financial crimes. The evidence they've fabricated would put you away for the rest of your life. A strange calm settles over me as the full picture emerges. It's the calm of a man who's fallen so far past his breaking point that he's entered a new state of being. Every betrayal, every lie, every calculated manipulation has stripped away another layer of who I used to be, revealing something harder and more dangerous underneath. There's something else you need to see, Elena says, leading me to a locked cabinet in the corner. Inside is a single manila envelope, thick with documents. This is what Marcus doesn't know I found, evidence of his own betrayal of their plan. He's been building a separate escape route, one that would leave both Sophia and Catherine exposed when everything falls apart. As I begin to read, a cold smile spreads across my face. In Marcus's treachery lies the key to unraveling everything. He's created a vulnerability in their perfect plan, a crack in the foundation of their conspiracy that we can exploit. My phone vibrates, another message from Sophia: picked up your favorite wine for dinner tomorrow night. Love you always. The tenderness of her deception would have wounded me days ago. Now it feels like ammunition, another piece in the arsenal I'm building. I look up at Elena, seeing in her eyes the same calculated determination that's crystallizing in my soul. Tomorrow night, I say, my voice carrying a certainty that surprises even me, we begin. But before I can elaborate, Elena's expression changes, her eyes fixing on one of the surveillance monitors. Ethan, she says quietly, I think we have a problem. On the screen, David is entering my office back at the firm, well after hours. In his hand is a USB drive I recognize, one containing backup copies of our most sensitive client files. The game is shifting again, forcing us to accelerate our plans. But this time, I'm ready. The man who trusted blindly is dead, replaced by someone who understands that in this new reality, mercy is a luxury we can no longer afford. There's a peculiar clarity that comes with complete devastation, a crystalline sharpness to the world when you've been stripped of every comforting illusion. As I watch David through Elena's surveillance feeds, I feel the last vestiges of my old self crumbling away, like ash scattered in a cold wind. Your hands aren't shaking anymore, Elena observes, her voice carrying notes of both approval and warning. She's right, the tremors that had plagued me since discovering Sophia's betrayal have vanished, replaced by an unsettling steadiness that feels both foreign and inevitable. The man who trembled at betrayal died somewhere between my sister's treachery and this moment, I reply, watching David methodically download decades of client trust onto his thumb drive. What remains is something else entirely. Elena's reflection appears beside mine in the darkened monitor screen, her presence a sharp counterpoint to the ghostly absence of the woman I'd pledged my life to. Then let's begin, she says, pulling up a complex array of financial data. David's actions tonight have given us the perfect opportunity to accelerate our timeline. The plan unfolds like a lethal origami, beautiful in its precision, deadly in its implications. While David compromises our secure servers, he's unknowingly creating a digital trail that will lead investigators straight to his private accounts in the Cayman Islands. Accounts that, thanks to Elena's carefully orchestrated cyber manipulation, now show a years-long pattern of embezzlement and fraud. The beauty of betrayal, Elena muses, her fingers dancing across multiple keyboards, is how it can be reflected, redirected, turned back upon itself like light in a hall of mirrors. Each keystroke builds our elaborate deception, constructing a reality where David's legitimate concerns about corporate malfeasance become evidence of his own criminal enterprise. I think of Catherine then, my sister, my first protector, now revealed as the architect of my destruction. The pain of her betrayal burns differently than Sophia's, a deeper, more primal wound that reaches back to shared childhood memories now tainted by present treachery. Your sister's on the move, Elena announces, switching to a different feed. Catherine's elegant figure appears, entering a private dining room at Le Cirque. The man waiting for her makes my blood freeze, James Chen, head of the criminal syndicate preparing to acquire my company. She's not just meeting with them, I realize, watching their intimate interaction. She's one of them. Has been all along. The implications cascade through my mind, illuminating countless moments from our shared past in harsh new light. Every piece of business advice, every introduced contact, every subtle nudge toward certain investments, she'd been grooming me, positioning me, preparing the ground for this elaborate execution. That's why they chose Sophia, Elena adds softly, her insight cutting to the heart of the matter. Catherine knew she could be turned, knew her hidden appetites and frustrations. Your sister didn't just betray you, Ethan, she orchestrated the systematic dismantling of your entire life. Something shifts inside me at these words, like tectonic plates grinding against each other before a catastrophic realignment. The pain transforms, crystallizing into something harder, sharper, more purposeful. I feel myself becoming a weapon forged in the fire of multiple betrayals. Show me the contingency plan, I demand, my voice carrying an authority I've never felt before. Elena's smile is razor-thin as she pulls up another set of documents, the nuclear option we've been preparing. The plan is elegant in its brutality. While David unwittingly provides a digital trail of his own corruption, we're positioning Elena's carefully crafted evidence to suggest that Catherine and Sophia have been working with a rival syndicate. The resulting gang war will destroy both criminal organizations, while the financial chaos creates a paper trail leading to everyone except us. Once we trigger this, Elena warns, there's no going back. Every bridge will burn. Every relationship will be ash. I think of Sophia's lips on my cheek this morning, Catherine's warm hugs at family gatherings, David's decades of feigned friendship. Each memory now feels like a knife twisted in my gut, but the pain no longer weakens me, it sharpens my resolve. Execute it, I command, and Elena's fingers fly across the keyboards, setting our destruction in motion. As the first digital dominoes begin to fall, my phone buzzes with a text from Sophia, early meeting tomorrow. Don't wait up, darling. I smile, knowing she's actually meeting Marcus to finalize their plans for my downfall. But tomorrow's dawn will bring a very different reality than the one they've orchestrated. By the time the sun rises, their carefully constructed scheme will be unraveling in ways they never anticipated. The security feed shows David finishing his download, carefully covering his tracks as he exits my office. He has no idea that every keystroke, every file copied, every precaution taken is actually cementing his own destruction. The irony would be amusing if it weren't so tragic. "It's done," Elena announces, her voice carrying the weight of irreversible action. The first phase is initiated. I stand at the window of her command center, looking out over the city's glittering expanse. Somewhere out there, my wife is in another man's arms, my sister is plotting with criminals, and my best friend is preparing to destroy me. But they're all about to learn a brutal truth: sometimes the most dangerous weapon is a man who has nothing left to lose. A notification pings, Catherine sending our usual weekly dinner invitation. The normalcy of it, the sheer audacity of maintaining these pretenses, ignites something cold and deadly in my chest. "Time to go home," I tell Elena, gathering my coat. "Tomorrow, we begin the endgame." Her hand touches my arm, a rare gesture of genuine concern. "Are you ready for what comes next? Once we trigger the main sequence, the casualties won't just be financial." I meet her gaze, seeing in her eyes the same transformative pain that has reshaped my soul. "I died the moment I learned the truth," I reply. "What remains is merely an instrument of justice." As I drive home through the darkened city streets, I feel the weight of the thumb drive in my pocket, Elena's insurance policy, loaded with enough evidence to destroy everyone who betrayed me. Tomorrow, when Sophia kisses me goodbye, when David greets me at the office, when Catherine calls to confirm dinner plans, they'll have no idea that their own apocalypse is already in motion. The man who believed in love, trust, and family is gone. In his place is something far more dangerous, a man who has learned to weaponize betrayal itself. There's a particular quality to the silence before an avalanche, a pregnant stillness where the world holds its breath, knowing that destruction is not just imminent but inevitable. As I sit across from Sophia at our breakfast table on this final morning, I savor that silence, letting it fill the space between her practiced lies and my calculated responses. "You seem different lately," she observes, reaching across to touch my hand with familiar intimacy. The gesture that once brought comfort now feels like acid against my skin, each gentle stroke another layer of deception burning through flesh and bone. "Do I?" My voice carries a new timbre, something harder, crystalline in its clarity. I study her face, mapping the geography of her betrayal in every familiar feature. How many times had those lips whispered love to me, even as they shaped conspiracies with Marcus? How many times had those eyes watched me sleep, calculating the precise moment to strike? The board meeting is scheduled for 10. By 9:30, Elena's carefully orchestrated digital apocalypse begins unfolding with the precision of a Swiss timepiece. First, the anonymous tips reach the FBI and SEC simultaneously, evidence of David's apparent years-long embezzlement scheme, Catherine's connections to international crime syndicates, and the elaborate money laundering operation they'd planned to pin on me. I watch the color drain from David's face as federal agents enter our office floor. His eyes meet mine across the conference room, desperate understanding dawning as he realizes the thumb drive he'd used last night has created a perfect trail of his own destruction. The evidence he thought he was gathering against me has become his suicide note. "Ethan," he starts, but I silence him with a look that carries the weight of 25 years of false friendship. "Funny thing about trust, David," I say softly, for his ears alone. "It's like radiation, invisible until it kills you." Catherine arrives next, her usual confident stride faltering as she notices the unusual activity. I see the exact moment she spots the federal agents comparing surveillance photos, images of her meetings with James Chin, each frame a nail in the coffin of her carefully constructed double life. "Baby brother," she whispers, reaching for me with the same hands that had orchestrated my destruction. "Whatever you think you know." "I know everything," I cut her off, my voice carrying the finality of a judge's gavel. "Every meeting, every deal, every careful manipulation since we were children." Tell me, was any of it real? Or was I always just a pawn in your grand design? The chaos escalates precisely as Elena predicted. As federal agents sweep through the building, digital alerts trigger across the criminal networks Catherine had so carefully cultivated. Each syndicate receives proof that the others are moving against them, sparking a war that will destroy them all while obscuring the true architects of their downfall. And then comes Sophia's moment of revelation. She bursts into my office, clutching her phone with trembling hands. On the screen are bank statements showing the systematic draining of her secret accounts, the ones she thought I'd never discover. Behind her, I see Marcus at his desk, his own financial empire crumbling in real time as Elena's digital weapons find their marks. How long? I ask, though the question isn't really about time. It's about depth, the fathomless reaches of betrayal that have reshaped us both into unrecognizable creatures. Ethan, please, she begins, but falters as she sees my expression. For the first time, she's facing not the trusting husband she'd manipulated for years, but the weapon her betrayal has forged. You don't understand what you're doing. I understand perfectly, I reply, standing to look out over the city that had witnessed our entire tragedy. I understand that love is just leverage waiting to be applied. I understand that trust is a weakness that others will always exploit. But most importantly, I understand that revenge isn't about destruction, it's about transformation. Elena appears in the doorway, her timing impeccable as always. Together, we watch the elaborate machinery of destruction we've set in motion reach its crescendo. Federal agents escort David out in handcuffs. Catherine's criminal empire implodes in a cascade of violence and betrayal. And Marcus, poor, arrogant Marcus, finally realizes that his own backstabbing plan has become the blueprint for his downfall. The company? Elena asks softly. Transferred to offshore holdings controlled by shell corporations that, ironically, Catherine helped me set up years ago. She taught me too well about hiding assets. The laugh that escapes me carries no mirth, only appreciation for the perfect symmetry of using their own methods against them. Sophia makes one last attempt, reaching for me with desperate familiarity. We can fix this, she pleads. Everything we've built. Everything we built was a lie, I interrupt, finally turning to face her. But the truth? The truth is so much more interesting. As the sun sets over the city, I stand in my emptied office, surveying the wreckage of my former life. The man who started this journey died 1,000 small deaths with each betrayal discovered. What emerged from that crucible of deception isn't just a survivor, it's something far more dangerous, a being who understands that the most lethal weapon isn't hatred or anger, but the patient, calculated application of truth. Elena joins me at the window, her presence a reminder that sometimes the only ones we can trust are those who have been betrayed as deeply as ourselves. Was it worth it? She asks, though we both know the answer. Worth implies an exchange, I reply, watching federal agents load boxes of evidence into their vehicles below. This wasn't an exchange, it was a metamorphosis. My phone buzzes one last time, a message from Catherine, sent from wherever she's hiding. You've become everything I taught you to be. I smile, letting the phone slip from my fingers to shatter on the floor. She's right, in a way she never intended. They all shaped me, crafted me, molded me through their betrayals into something beyond their control or comprehension. In the end, that's the true victory, not just surviving their betrayal, but being transformed by it into something they never saw coming, a man who learned to weaponize trust itself. As night falls over the ruins of my former life, I feel not grief but a profound sense of completion. The symphony of destruction we orchestrated has reached its final note, leaving behind a silence pregnant with new possibilities. Shall we? Elena asks, holding out her hand. I take it, stepping away from the ashes of my past toward whatever darkness awaits. After all, when you've mastered the art of betrayal, the whole world becomes an endless canvas of possibilities. The man who believed in love and trust is dead. What remains is something far more interesting, a being forged in the fires of betrayal, tempered by deception, and finally, perfectly free.